again, we're just talking about it. You've got $8,000 at 10x. You're pretty fucking excited. At 100x, you're ecstatic, right? Now, once you've turned $8,000 into $1 million, and then you've turned it into 10. This guy went through 1 million, 10 million, $100 million. At some point,
mate, he went through like billion, 2 billion, like 3 billion. At one point, you sat there like, hang on a minute, I've got like as much money as like some little tiny sovereign nation. Like,
exactly.
Should I maybe cash out a little bit here? First episode of Degen Talk, then.
Yeah. Welcome everyone who's watching. Sponsored by absolutely no one right now.
The 5 people that are going to watch this.
The 5 people that are watching, welcome to the start of something great. Yeah, bro, how are you?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. I actually, you're going to laugh at this one. What are you drinking there? I got a little frozen margarita from down the...
Ooh, Christ almighty, mate.
Look at the cold coming off that. Ooh, baby.
Frozen margarita. I'm on a beer.
I've got a beer as well.
And I've got a little IPA, actually, so...
How much? This will lead into our first topic quite nicely, actually. How much do you reckon this costs?
Oof. What, is it homemade, or have you picked that up from the thingy around the corner or something? On the way back?
Little shop around the corner.
Well... After today, let's call it maybe 11 quid.
Not that much, mate. I won't pay that much. eight though. 8. It was 8.
8 quid.
Tastes good though.
I should make you one vomit.
My head will explode. It's that cold. But that probably leads us quite nicely into our first topic, which is the Bank of England. Going back to QE.
Yes, well, what a terrible idea that seems to be, doesn't it, really? So, what do? We got the news yesterday.
Yeah, we're going to go back to quantitative easing, buying up a load of bonds. Like, I couldn't believe it. But I've got a little bit of insight into exactly why they did it. I think will be quite interesting for you to kind of understand and for anyone listening. But so I guess on the face of it, it's like wild. Why have they done this? Like we're in QE into 10% inflation.
Yeah, we've got 10%, and we're printing more cash, right?
A lot more, which is just like unfathomable. And I didn't know this, but basically, a load of pension funds were apparently going under, maybe going insolvent.
Yep, I heard about this.
I didn't know this, but I should have known it, but I didn't. A lot of the pension funds here in the UK, they keep bonds on their books, gilts, bonds. Basically, as collateral to be able to use to pay out anyone that needs money. You know, they keep billions and billions in these bonds.
Yeah.
Value of those bonds has been absolutely tanking. They should be quite a stable asset, but they've been tanking. Like, I think roughly like 20-30% in a few days. Like, it got crazy. This week, it was absolutely just in free fall. So the Bank of England had to step in and basically backstop that market and say, well, we're going to buy a load of these bonds to support it and prop up the price. Because if the underlying bond loses so much value, then the customers that have any money with them, you can't pay them out.
Yeah. Because
it just becomes less and less. So they were at risk of like insolvency, apparently. Notify the Bank of England on Monday.
It was no messing around ones either, was it? It was genuine people's pension funds who, like, you know, hardworking people, 30, 40 years of their life have invested into and these effectively were margined to the tits, as you would expect from a pension fund.
That's it.
Yeah, they were literally on the brink, right? I heard that there was obviously people up through the night trying to work this package out, and they came out with, is it close to 65 billion or something? I think I read.
Exactly 65 billion on the dot. Which, bear in mind, this comes off the back of having to put money forward to bail out and help support a load of the energy crisis which is going on, which is, I read a figure today that was like 170 billion nearly, that help kind of prop that up in euros. And then we've got this. And yeah, you're right, it wasn't like small pension funds. It's not these little sort of niche boutique pension funds that were having problems, that were over leveraged. It was mainly pension funds that are tied to big organizations that a lot of people get the salaries paid into.
Yeah,
a little bit out of the salary each month straight into the pension. I've got a little bit, bits and bats at with a pension fund with Aviva. Can't get access to it till I'm 60. Big players like that. And I mean, I know you're saying leveraged up, but I don't know. It's a tricky one. Arguably, they had them in safe assets, so it's not like they had a load in GameStop. They weren't firing your pension fund into GameStop and YOLO in it. But
they might have done quite well if they did last year. But yeah.
But at the same time, you are kind of like, well, like, if I'm sat here as an individual and I'm mainly sat in US dollars, like, I'm a weed smoking degenerate that looks at crypto all the time. Like, why am I better positioned than a fucking pension fund with hundreds of staff that can monitor this kind of stuff and balance the books a little bit better?
Exactly. In the last 6 months or something, I've made maybe 27% on, or whatever the drop's been. My stable stack has helped me massively in GBP, but that very short-term view is not going to help us into the medium and long term. I think just the overriding principle here is kind of what you said at the start, is the UK government, obviously governments across the world, have got themselves in a position where we have 10% ravaged inflation, and they still need to print more money to keep the charade going. And I think that just shows how broken the system is. I think yesterday was quite interesting sentiment-wise, maybe on Twitter, maybe between ourselves, talking to people we know, and it's like, this truly is insane. When you are checkmated to the point that you have to print another 65 bill to stop the milkman losing his pension pot, something's amiss for sure.
It's quite scary to actually watch it. Citigroup reckon that we're going to hit 20% inflation off the back of this.
Wow, that is insane.
And already we know the inflation rate's worse than what it is. Like, it's not 10%. I'm not paying 10% more for my food. I'm paying 20-30% at the moment as it is. So
exactly.
Where's this going to go?
I remember we started this, again, we should have done it on recording, but between ourselves, I was like, right, 3, 4, 5 months ago, I was like, right, let's start tracking the price of milk. And 6 pints of milk or 4 pints of milk has gone from £1.20, and I was like, it's £1.30 this week. And I was like, you won't believe it, it's £1.40 this week. And I checked again the other day, and I wish I'd just tweeted this or something, £1.75 now. And it's just, like you say, there's no getting away from it. Particularly, I'm sure across the globe, but here in the UK, it's night and day. You do your basic bread, milk, and butter, and it's £8 or something. It's crazy.
It's not. It's not sustainable. Like, at the same time as well, I don't know if you know this, but on the same day, a record number of mortgages were pulled. Record for the most amount of mortgages pulled in a single day. Occurred on Wednesday as well. So, like, people are shitting the pants. It's bad. Like, the Bank of England basically just said we're gonna do it as much as it takes. Like, it's 65 billion right now, but If it don't work, they'll throw another 65 bill at it. No bother.
Yeah, I heard the statement actually. I saw it on Twitter. I probably should have got it together, but like you just said, the words were, "We will do as much as it takes," which more or less says, "Suck it up and take it. We're going to do whatever the F we need to," you know.
mate, we've got Powell on one side saying we'll do as much as it takes about raising rates and stamping out inflation, and then we've got the Bank of England saying we'll do as much as it takes. This throws us into that doom loop situation that I explained today on the Discord group. By the way, I've got a Discord group. Just gonna plug that right now.
Crypto Ram. We'll leave a link in the description. Come and speak to us.
Come speak to us. Come get wrecked with us. The doom loop scenario, and I had to write this down a few times as well, just to actually make it make sense in my own head. And I may need to correct myself a few times when I try and explain this, but the Bank of England, who have just raised, we've just done QE. That's going to cause inflation to go up in the UK. So they're going to have to raise the rates, maybe even more aggressively than what they've already done. And I'm just using the UK as an example here. You can apply this to almost every country right now, because everyone's pegged against the US dollar.
Yeah.
They raise interest rates. That'll send the pound up, which will send the dollar down. So the dollar will lose value against all these currencies when all their central banks start to really ramp up and raise the rates. When the US dollar goes down, price of commodities generally goes up, because that's what all the commodities are traded in, US dollars. So when that happens, then the US are going to shit the bed, because they're like, well, all these commodities, everything's going up in price. Like our inflation is remaining sticky, and it keeps going up and up and up. So we're going to have to raise rates. So then the Federal Reserve raises the rates 75 basis points, whatever it is. Then the US dollar goes up, and then the pound and everything else gets hammered again. So then we have to go back to rate, and then inflation gets worse in our country. So then we have to go back to raising rates. So it's just like it's just a complete fiat doom loop where it's like a race to the bottom, but it's to the top technically for interest rates. But like we've seen already, the UK cannot handle it. They've already tapped out and said we can't. That's it for us. We're done.
Yeah, I think one of your girls, that Lynn Alden, she wrote something earlier today, just in relation to it, and she was mentioning this checkmates scenario. I might just quickly bring it up on the screen here, actually, because it was quite interesting.
Very good, Lynn.
Yeah, it was a nice piece that she spoke about. It was just in relation to, when you get to the point that you try and get inflation curbed, but even by raising interest rates, it no longer makes a difference, which kind of feels like where we are. And yeah, let me just quickly pull this up, because it was an interesting one. I think major central banks, including the Federal Reserve, BOE, etc., are losing the side of a checkmate scenario where economic realities dwindle. Blah, 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 blah. Checkmate in this context happened when central banks encounters inflation at its target level, but still can't stop printing money due to lack of buyers in the government's debt. And it just feels like already, like you said, the UK, it's trying to, it's not even at its target inflation level, and it still can't stop printing money. It's quite bizarre, really.
The move index, which I haven't got a chart up now, but I'll get it added in afterwards. The move index is basically a measure of volatility for the bond market, and that is already, and that's for the US. The UK is absolutely fucked. Like, make no mistake about it, it's absolutely fucked. The US is probably in the strongest position because it's the reserve currency. Economy's pretty strong, jobs are still strong, which is bad, but anyway, in front of the time. The MOVE index tracks bond market volatility, and that's already at the same level as when they had to step in for the COVID pandemic. So, the US might. I don't know. I'm very interested to see, mate, if like on the next meeting, does Jerome Powell look at all of this and go, "Shit, we're gonna have to." Gonna have to chill out here because things are getting spicy in some of the other markets, or does he just say, "Fuck you guys! I don't give a shit what problems you've got in your own countries. Like that's for you to manage and your central bank to manage. We've got a mission and we need to continue on that mission, and we're just going to continue to raise rates." I think it will be the latter because he's already said inflation is the main thing that they're trying to get done.
Yeah. And it makes sense. One thing I find bizarre, and I'm by no means a macroeconomic expert, I know it's something you enjoy quite a lot, but what I always find so bizarre about the US is they obviously printed, 50, 60, 100% of all US dollars in circulation over the past couple of years. And they're the ones coming out in, the sweetest position here. Well, somewhat, obviously. I know everywhere's been printing and stuff, but I think it just goes to show how the current system, fiat system, really is on its knees across the board. And this is why we love Bitcoin, right? I'm sure we'll dive into kind of that a little bit. And
well, this was a question I actually had for you. Was that like, do you think that this scenario here, with what's happening with all the fiat currencies, everything else, do you feel like this strengthens the narrative for Bitcoin now?
I do. I think.
Is this it? Is this the moment?
I think it's too. I think it still feels too far away. I think it looks like we're staring down the barrel of a gun as much as 2008, if not, much bigger potentially after everything that's come. And I think if Bitcoin is to. I don't think we're going to be buying coffees in Satoshis like maybe the white paper thought, but I am certainly of the opinion that, currency, that reserve currencies, global reserve currencies, I've spoke about this before with you, have a finite lifespan. We had the gold standard, we've had fiat for close to 100 years now. And I think we have to do something that takes us back closer to hard money. Whether it be gold, something that can actually tie value to it. Now, whether that is Bitcoin or not, again, I don't think Bitcoin's ever the thing that we spend in the shop, but I do think it strengthens the narrative for that to be in a basket of goods or to be a reserve asset that is then used for a future of hard money, because that's exactly what it is. That's why it's worth $1 trillion, because people, genuinely believe that it has that property as well. That's the only property really that it has. So I do think it strengthens it. It was so funny for anyone at home. Obviously, me and Bleeding Hedge here, we more or less had the entire bull run where it was like, yes, print the money, because the more inflation there is, the better Bitcoin is. And it just turned out that was the big pump fest on Bitcoin. Fundamentals still don't matter.
Don't bring that into it. Don't bring that. Oh, mate, yeah. I mean, I'll say it. Like, I was one of those moon boys that fully got on board with, Bitcoin's doing great because they're printing so much money, and when this all collapses, Bitcoin's going to absolutely fucking rocket because that's fundamentally why it's here. And naive, bro. It was super naive.
I think it was a mixture of like you knew we were pumping, stocks were pumping, you knew risk on was on, and I didn't quite look into it that deeply. But again, maybe for people like ourselves who understand Bitcoin on enough of a level that you do understand that it was here for this, then it really did. It did entice you like that. But just to go back to your question, whether the world's ready for that, whether it can serve that role, how the hell nations truly adopt it to back their currency is, you know, as big a challenge as anything that's ever come, and a bigger revolution as more or less anything that we've ever seen. So whether that can happen in the next few years, we've said it before, maybe we see absolute cataclysm and, you know, we're eating the cats and stuff because we can't get hold of any protein anywhere. Maybe then people use it, but I really don't know. But I think, you know, it's probably it's time to maybe answer the question in the next few years. We will see.
Yeah, so I fully agree with you there that Bitcoin's not going to be used to buy a coffee. It's just not. You think that's retarded. Like, you just don't understand it. There's way more efficient ways of doing that. It's not that. Yeah, I think that I don't think it's a few years. I personally feel like it's almost now or never, and it may, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. Things may get better in a few months. I don't think they will, but they may get better in a few months, and this argument might be off the table, and this whole thing might be off the table. But I feel like it's almost now or never, in a sense. Like, it's built up to this for so long now. So long this whole system's been in place and been fucking things up with credit. It's almost got to a point where it's like, right, now this is the test. Because that's the mistake that I made. You know, I made with that narrative of it will do well because they're printing so much money. Is I underestimated the masses' understanding of Bitcoin and what it was really being used for at the time. And I agree. I don't think we're there yet. I just wonder that if this situation that we're in right now and how it develops over the next 3, 6 months, maybe 12. Will that be strong enough to make people really get it?
Yeah, I think I think you're right. And I think though there's like a few stages to this. I think one of two things has to happen. Either things get so bad that the general public has to start looking for alternatives, and you know, people have to understand Bitcoin to want to buy it for that reason. That is probably the biggest hurdle. Everyone sees it as this gambling, you know, kind of fake token thing. I think things either have to get so bad that people have no choice but to look, and then there has to be some level of adoption, which ultimately kind of forces the hand of some banks and this kind of thing. But I don't think that's a quick process, and that's going to be the real challenge: is how do people actually get their hands on it without becoming little maxis like us, you know?
I think so. Like, you know, I've said to you for months and months now that, and you know, we've both talked about it at length, that I think that it really does take, the worse it gets, the better it is for Bitcoin. That really, it really comes down to that. You know, this either works or it doesn't. There is no middle ground here. Like, for me personally, because if we really do get some form of collapse, and this isn't taken up in the way that I want it to be, and what I've always envisioned, that doesn't happen, then
yeah. I think, like you say, maybe it doesn't run into being the global reserve asset or anything, but I think you're right. There is kind of an all or nothing situation with Bitcoin where
commodities have to be pegged to it. They have to be pegged to it.
Yeah. Or it has to serve gold's role, kind of, you know, it has to get to that kind of level pretty sharpishly for it to have, you know, if it ever surpassed gold's market cap, then you, like, why would it stop? I'm not, it just kind of seems at that point the cat's out of the bag. Like, we're moving at the minutes, we're still at some inflection points, aren't we? But the log chart keeps going up over time. So, you know what I mean? If you saw that log chart turn over and come back like properly without bull and bear cycles, then you'd be like, you know, then you're starting to get concerned.
Yeah, I think the it has always gone up over time. People always say, people have always kind of say, well, it's never been in this type of environment, which is true. Yeah, it's true, but I think it's almost very important. It's very important for people to also understand and get, like, for anyone listening, we got into Bitcoin together. I found Bitcoin in 2013, searching the internet. After getting a £600 overdraft charge when I left the UK to travel Australia, £600 overcharge on my my Barclays account. RBS it was at the time. I'll call them out. It was Royal Bank of Scotland. I left the UK about £2 overdrawn. They rang me up in Australia and said, you owe us £600 for in overdraft fees. I'm like, what? I left £2 overdrawn. Like, what you telling me? I left like £2 overdrawn. Now I owe you £600. Yes, sir, you do. Right? Okay. Bullshit. Got angry with the system and the way it worked, and went online. Found Bitcoin through some various forums. I was searching for like alternative to banks, different financial systems. Found some forum posts. Bitcoin, what the fuck is that? There was like a widget thing at the time I could download on my phone to see the price. It was bizarre. There was nowhere to buy it. It was weird, and I didn't really get it. I did not get it at the time. I didn't read the white paper. I'll be honest, I didn't. But I found it out of frustration, and it was created out of frustration of the financial system in 2009. So I really am hoping that if things do go to shit that bad and people get that frustrated, that's when we slide in.
Well, this is beautiful. You should say that, and it kind of leads into the next question in a moment. But just from what you said there, so obviously Bitcoin was created in these conditions, 13 years ago now or something like that. So it was created in these conditions then. It wasn't created for a decade-long bull run. It was created in the event that we need an alternative to the currency, which is, well, it kind of feels like it's showtime.
Exactly what you said there. It wasn't created in mind that we're going to go on an epic fucking bull run now. I'll create a really high beta risk on asset, and then people can just make billions from it over the next few years.
Exactly.
It wasn't that. It was, fuck this. This is bullshit. I'm creating something different.
Exactly. And this leads me actually to my next question, or the next topic I wanted to touch on. We were speaking about this quite recently, and I think we got asked the question, if you could bring 5 people back from the dead, or not just back from the dead, if you could have, the traditional question of 5 people around for dinner, and we both said exactly the same thing for the first person. And it would be Satoshi Nakamoto. For anyone watching, yes, this is a crypto podcast, so suck one if you don't like it. We love Bitcoin, we love crypto, we love blockchain, and we both said Satoshi. But I just, again, going back to what we were talking about then, he created this out of a bit of fury, a bit of fuck the system kind of thing. And I just wanted to kind of ask you, well, I suppose we can talk about it. What would you ask him? What would be something that you would want to ask him? What would you want to learn if we had Satoshi at the table now? What's something that would pique your interest with him?
So I guess the first thing to address is how mad is it that both of us out of 5 people that we couldn't bring for a dinner, alive or dead, anyone in history of mankind, both of us would like Satoshi. And to be honest with you, bro, he's probably my number one as well. I actually don't know who else would top that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone else who would rather get the answers to some questions off than him. And we obviously quite romantically like Bitcoin for what it is and what it does and how it's built and kind of the genius of it and stuff. But for me, I think one of the most insane things is how he dropped this and then
that's
just
it.
fucked off.
well, that's it, isn't it, bro? It's like it's the mystery surrounding it, which is just it's too much. It's too much. It's too tempting to find. I just really would love to find out. Is he dead? Are you dead? Are you alive? Why did you disappear?
Yep.
Mate, the questions are, there's so many.
Yeah, I think one thing I would love to know is, so again, for anyone who doesn't know, obviously Satoshi created this back in 2009. He mined like 1 million Bitcoins, for the first few years, him and a few other people with a close-knit community. And there was just a day where he just sent his final message to the forum, sent his final email, and just completely left, which seems insane that his 1 million Bitcoins haven't been touched since. And it's quite romantic in that sense that it's pretty wild that anyone could actually do that.
Has he actually got is it 1 million Bitcoin? I don't know what his balance is.
Yeah, I think it's estimated to be around 1 million Bitcoins that was mined in whatever wallet. And then you just think of it in this sense, if he intentionally left, he can't be alive, right? You can't watch you have 1 million Bitcoins go to $69,000 and not sell a single one. Surely.
Well, going back to your question, like what would I ask Satoshi now? The first one would be, obviously, what do you make of all this? Like right now, what do you think about this current situation with the way it has exploded? And I would ask him if he currently views it as a success or if he views it as a failure, because, like you said, it was created as electronic cash, wasn't it? So
exactly.
In my opinion, Satoshi, if you're Satoshi right now, in my opinion, Satoshi,
you never know. You've never seen me in
I'd be fucking fuming if you were Satoshi, bro. I'm here scrapping around for Bitcoin, and you're Satoshi.
Crack that wallet out, will you, son?
I would ask him if he views it as a success or a failure, because me personally, I don't view it as cash, Satoshi. I view it actually as a commodity. Yeah. What do you think? Was this the end game or what?
Sure.
My first question.
I think that'd be a great question to ask him. Would he? I wonder how much of a maxi towards his own Bitcoin he would be. Did he, like you said, is it serving the role he thought it would serve? To be honest, if something gets to $1 trillion, no matter what you build, you've done pretty bloody well. I'm sure he's probably impressed with the magnitude it got to, thinking that it could have quite easily been sniffed out at any minute, considering how fragile it was in those first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe, in terms of attacks or, maybe over regulation, anything like that. I think it's took that snowball effect, but I think you're right. Whether it serves its role as electronic cash is another question. And you can interpret the white paper, in tons of different ways. But yeah, I think that would be interesting to know from him for sure. Would it be a success? And then I want to bring this up actually, because I've got this up. I found from a year or so ago a Twitter account. It was his last email.
Yeah, bring it up.
And I'll bring it up on the screen here. I think this is 10 years ago today. Satoshi Nakamoto sent an email that turned out to be one of his last known communications before disappearing. And look at this line. I've moved on to other things. What the hell has he moved on to? This guy come up with probably, in our opinion, a Nobel Prize winning worthy invention, discovery almost, with decentralized cash that actually, has been adopted to over $1 trillion. And he's moved on to other things. I think for me, one of the questions that I would need to know is, what was his motivation for leaving back then? Did he leave it thinking, I've set the snowball off, now it's running? Or did he want to kind of detach himself from it? It almost says to me, even in 2011, if he was dipping, I think he thought this is going to work, because a decentralized currency can't have a head of it, right? Same reason why someone can't, have a 3-year run on everyone, accumulate 121s of the entire supply and then start selling it. So I would want to know why he left when he did.
Yeah. It's a great point. Like, I think because that's it, right? You know, if he left when he did, and he's still alive, bear that in mind. And if he's still alive, because if he's dead, it doesn't matter. It makes sense why he's not touched the coins.
Sure.
Like, he could just be a normal human being. You could have dipped into that by now, and he could be on trolling on Twitter, like, you know.
Yeah.
If he's dead, that's another thing. If he's still alive and he has the keys, it's like, whoa, who the fuck are you, bro? Like, because that is some like godlike restraint and
surely he's dead. Surely he's dead.
I'll be dead, man.
Because there's obviously those. There was that obviously Gavin, who was early. There was Hal Finney, who's now dead. R.I.P. You know, that's another one. Do we think is Satoshi Nakamoto a group of people? Is it one person? We had this discussion the other night, actually, just to cheat here on the podcast. But what I thought was insanely interesting is, surely if someone comes up with this idea and you're writing a white paper, surely you discuss that with some colleagues in your scientific arena. Surely this gets bounced off. Surely some alive people who know who it is just through that association of him discussing this.
I agree, because I personally don't think, and maybe this is just because I'm a fucking straightforward idiot, but personally, I don't think one person can think of that many problems and solve that many issues with such innovation and foresight and vision. There's too much. There's too much good innovation there for it to have been one person, and too many good ideas that I just. It can be one person, it can be, but I think that has to be surely bounced off someone. How do we solve this problem?
Got to be a soundboard. There's got to be people as a soundboard. Surely you can't go round and round unless it was an act of God and you just some kind of weird savant. What is interesting is Bitcoin white paper. I don't have the date. Obviously, Bitcoin launched 2009. We had the financial crash in 2008. Now, if that was truly the motivation, then it was a relatively quick turnaround. It wasn't something that was pondered over, unless it had been pondered over for the years before. It's not the first time that we've seen electronic cash or even cryptography being used in that kind of way. But it was a pretty quick turnaround if the financial crash was the motivation, which maybe lends itself to the fact that it was some sort of genius. But either way, you've got to. Someone should have spell checked it or something. You know what I mean?
Oh man, yeah, he would be my number one. You know, I'd have so many questions for him. The one that gets me, especially when you think about the landscape at the moment, in he thought of proof of work, which was absolutely just monstrously innovative and so clever in so many ways. Thinking of proof of work as a concept, outrageously good. Like how mad is it when you think about all the alt projects that are out there at the moment, all these projects trying to generate millions and millions and millions of dollars in investment and seed round funding. They've literally innovated on nothing. Like, imagine if a project came out tomorrow with something as innovative like proof of work. It would absolutely explode. It'd be like, whoa, exactly. That's mad. No one's come close. No one has even come close.
No, like we had Vitalik, who almost, obviously the whole programming languages, we should touch on that as well. But I think what you said there is, this is the crux of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin went from one person to two people to three people to four people to five to six, and all the way up to the millions of holders, users, or whatever that we've had over its lifespan. If someone came up with something that revolutionary tomorrow, it wouldn't integrate into society in the same way. It wouldn't distribute in the same way. People would be straight on the idea of the money. How do we all make money? We'd go from, a market cap of 0 to 100 million within 24 hours, whereas Bitcoin went from, went to $1, and then someone finally paid 10,000 bitcoins for 2 pizzas, and eventually it got its way to $1. And do you know what I mean? And that's what makes it so special, and that's why, if anything is going to be a reserve asset, it could only be Bitcoin in that sense, because otherwise someone else is going to hold all the eggs.
Yeah, nothing can be created like the way Bitcoin has naturally developed over time. Like you've said, to me countless times, nothing will ever get that type of organic growth ever again. It just won't.
Just can't. Everyone's too degen. Everyone would be all over it. Like, you couldn't market it. How did you market Bitcoin? You had to be a cryptographer. Like, that's how you learned about Bitcoin, and word of mouth. And it was a 0 to 1 invention, and everything after that has just been, like you said, an innovation, a derivative of that 0 to 1 invention. It's as critical as the internet. It's as critical, you could potentially say, as the printing press, if it goes on to achieve, what you think it could.
Mate, we're literally talking about something that's capable of being able to reinvent and change the whole monetary system. And then you've got people fucking throwing $1,000 into Shib, or fucking cum rocket coin to try and make 100x or 1000x. It is mind blowing, and it puts everything to shame.
Yeah,
in so many ways.
And again, for anyone watching this, as you may tell, we like Bitcoin. We think Bitcoin's pretty cool. I know there's a lot of the community out there that don't like it, and who are probably as well versed in crypto, if not much more so than us. So take it with a pinch of salt. One thing I do want to say, I think one thing that really helped me is reading 2 books on the subject, Inventing Bitcoin and the Bitcoin Standard. If you think what we're saying seems relatively interesting, I think they're 2 good places to start to actually understand the mechanism. And maxi or not, I think it's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, mate, I'll say it now. Like, I'll dabble around in altcoins all the time, every week. I'm dabbling in altcoins every week. Cool. NFTs, like I'll do it because it's fun. Like, it's fun. It's got its own thing, which we'll talk about in another episode. But yeah, for me, like, given the way things are right now as we talk, I'm full Bitcoin maxi mode. I want to see dominance absolutely wreck the place. I literally I want to see blood in the altcoin streets, and I want to see Bitcoin getting taken off exchange at a big rate. That's a good point. Before we move on, I'll say now that the main things that I'm looking at the moment to see if this whole thing that we're talking about can actually happen is mainly just looking at spot Bitcoin. Is it more dominant than futures? Are we actually seeing spot Bitcoin being taken off exchange? What are the flows looking like? What is the investment looking like in some of the institutional products? Because if we can keep an eye on this, new address data as well, average transaction volume, all these different types of metrics to try and understand whether institutions and smart money are actually getting into this at this time. Because if they are, then that's when you want to buy, and that's when I'll be absolutely going hell for leather on going all in. But I'm not going to be an idiot and make that mistake of just saying all in right now, because until I see data and evidence that that's the case, I'm not going to go near it. I was going to ask you this, bro. Would you be a sacrificial lamb like Satoshi? Almost as a, yeah. Would you basically say, hypothetically, Bitcoin becomes that standard next week, but you personally?
Oh my god, what a horrible question.
You personally are not allowed to hold one single sat.
Wait there. So Bitcoin is globally dominant as a reserve currency, and I am a no coiner, is what you're saying.
You're not ever allowed to be a holder either.
I'm not even allowed to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, if you put money in, if you put money in, it goes to like the Taliban or something direct.
Do you know what? Maybe for the good of the world, I would do it. Maybe for the good of the world, I would do it. I would just tell my mum just before I did it, like, buy this shit. It's like, I'm about to like take this off.
I'd be like, fuck it, watch the world burn, bro.
Yeah, you'd be like, if I can't see the green dick candles, no one can. Fuck this. Yeah, just for the record, Bleeding Hedges is quite the max. I love ETH. I love blockchain as well as anything. I think there's a lot to go with there. And the next thing I want to touch on, I do want to touch on ETH. So we'll catch up on that now in a sec. What are you drinking?
Some Belgian Jupiler.
Is it from that little shop up by you, is it?
Yeah.
Strong little buggers they are.
I know, mate, yeah. I'm feeling it after like margarita and stuff. Margarita and 1.5 little joints down.
Nice.
So,
I suppose we've Bitcoined ourselves and everyone to death.
Yeah, we have.
I think one thing obviously wanted to touch on, it's came and gone a little bit now, but I still think it's worth a quick mention. We've had the Ethereum merge. Thank God it worked, I suppose.
Yeah, it was a little bit kind of hold your breath. Oh, what's going to happen here? Yeah, it was interesting. Good technological development, like fine.
For sure. I think it was pretty big. There's not many projects that lay out how many projects from today would have a 5-year roadmap goal and take the time to do it properly and achieve it. Not even Bitcoin does that, you know. So it's very impressive in that sense. Just to give it maybe a bit of a basic overview, anyone who's into it, not into it, cares, doesn't care. You know, ETH moved from proof of work, the same as Bitcoin, consumes a hell of a lot of energy, gives it its intrinsic value, but they've changed to proof of stake, so users can just stake their Ethereum, and that ultimately validates and gives the blockchain its consensus. Just as secure by all accounts, no more miners, stakers take over. I think one thing that is going to be good that comes out of the merge and was kind of a big thing throughout the last bull run was just this whole environmental chat. Like, what, you know, people were like, we hate NFTs because they kill the environment. And it's kind of like instantly that has gone now. It's like you've actually got nothing to say there.
It's good.
Which I think is positive.
Yeah. Is there anything else? What else do you want to say?
Yeah. Well, no. We can go through it in detail. I think the big plus is hopefully the tokenomics change, where we eventually see it go deflationary off the back of it. I think that's probably the biggest plus. Again, we're not going to give everyone a complete merge lowdown here. People can Google it and stuff and give.
I think for me it's simple. Like, I've got, you know, I like the way that they did it, but it installs faith in me that ETH is going to be good, because they've managed to go through some of these big technical changes without a hiccup. They've done really good testing beforehand, you know, really good stuff. So I'm really impressed on a technological level. You know, from a financial point of view and utility, yeah, love it. I do like the tokenomics, the staking rewards. I do like the fact that it's changed to help the environment. But beyond that, and it's deflationary, yeah, great. Beyond that, not much else in terms of what I like. I think it could transform and change elements of DeFi. And I do like thinking of it as that bond of the internet and bond of Web3 potentially.
Yeah.
Great narrative, love it. I can see that playing out eventually over time. And I do think it will take over Bitcoin's market cap because utility is just there. But you know, there's the yeah, that's about it really. It's great, it's good, but while everything's absolutely fucked, I don't really care about much.
Well, I don't think anyone cares. We saw the merge and then we saw it drop obviously a nice little 30%, 20%, pretty much instantly over the following weeks, which is pretty much typical crypto. we have something nice, something good happens, everyone sells into it. So, yeah, just to put it, I think the tokenomics is something I really do like. I'm not too sure about the long-term security. One thing I do like about Bitcoin is the fact that proof of work gives it its intrinsic value. You're exchanging energy. And so there is something behind it there. I kind of feel like it's potentially a mistake giving that up. But from the tokenomics side, so for anyone who maybe doesn't quite know, it's going to go deflationary. So beforehand, when ETH was in proof of work, it had around a 4.6% inflation rate per year. So this was equivalent to 13,000 ETH a day. This has now moved to around 1,600 ETH a day, or about 0.5% per year. So it's dropped by, what's that, a good 80-90% in terms of issuance, which is pretty great. And with EIP 1559, obviously Ethereum is burnt every day. So into the long-term future, the supply of Ethereum could go down, which just by the laws of nature or the laws of economics is going to be good for the price. Less supply, more demand, greater price. So that's pretty much it. I think you're right, though. It's kind of like, who really cares apart from the power nerds? And you can put me in that bracket, but it's just good technological achievement, but it's not going to ignite a new bull run, and quite clearly has not.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact it's kind of locked off proof of work. I'm fine with that. I'm good with Bitcoin being the kind of the one for that, and
I bet you are.
I'm not going to go back into that. I'm not going to go back into that. But no, I actually do think that it acting as a bond in some way, it has provided it can really hold that distribution. I would hate to see it concentrated so heavily in certain areas. So as long as it can maintain the, decentralization, the infrastructure of all of that, then great, love it. But
sure,
if that gets really lost, like if someone holds more than like 30%, I'd be a bit like, whoa, that's not good.
Yeah, and there are these big staking pools, Lido and stuff. Again, I'm not going to go into it to a level of depth that, like, I think I know the intricacies of it and the security things. If you've ever read one of Vitalik's tweets, you know full well that you can only understand 20% of it anyway. But I think one thing, just before we kind of move on, don't want to crush it too long, I think a really good narrative off the back of it is, so the fact the merge has gone well, it kind of makes it a bit more investable for the bigger dogs. Let's think about it. There's none of these environmental concerns. Bigger funds can get in. There's, the social justice world that we live in is a bit more accustomed to it. I think if it gets that positive recognition, then there's a couple of misconceptions with the merge, and the two main ones for me is it's not going to make the fees cheaper, which at times are absolutely ridiculous, and it's not going to make the thing faster. That we're still a couple of years away from that. That's the next thing in the roadmap. So I think a narrative that is and will take off, particularly if Ethereum is adopted to, this it's kind of universally accepted as being maybe the best smart contract platform as it currently is, then we're going to have these layer twos. It's these scaling solutions that come next. And that's what excites me, the likes of Optimism, Arbitrum, ZK Sync, Starkware, these roll-ups.
You keep ramming them down me, bro.
How long have we been talking about them now?
A long time. Yeah, mate. I keep every month. What's good? What's good, Conrad?
Yeah,
scaling solutions.
I love scaling.
Scaling.
But I think the basic premise of it is if we're going to get to 1 million transactions per second, which is easy, the amount of stuff everyone does on their phone now, if we get 1 million transactions per second, even a full throttle Ethereum at 100k transactions per second can't do it. So I do think these are good, strong bets into the future. And I think it's a nice narrative. How long it takes to show up will be another question, but I just think it's a good spot to be looking for sure.
Yeah, I fully agree, man. I mean, yeah, the scaling issue has to be solved, and the ETH is the one to do that. I think you're right. I think it'll be one of the best narratives, I think, next year. We'll get into some other time for sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, overall the merge, cool, great. It's been good.
Did its thing tick, and it dumped. So that was nice of it.
All good, all good. Yeah, I just want to keep an eye on those. How concentrated it can get is a concern for me. But let's see what happens. I think the next thing we want to talk about is old Doey, Kwon.
Yeah.
Oh no! We actually the best part of the merge that came out. We've not even looked at that, mate. The best part of the merge was fucking Vitalik's piece getting shown and memeing before it happened.
God. If anything was a good omen for the merge to go well, it was the fact that Vitalik has a Pringles can in his fucking kex. Like,
oh mate, he does.
The fact he's holding absolute length is the state of that. What for Vitalik?
Mate, does he not have, surely he's got someone there going, hey mate, you probably want to retake that photo, right?
Oh my god, is that just the posture, the hat? I just love it. Those trackies are so B-Tech, it's beyond belief.
It's too much, mate. It's too much to handle. Like, even before the merge, when it came out, I was just like, this is unbelievable. What is going on? I reckon this like trended more on Twitter than like the merge itself.
Yeah, 100% people were more interested in this picture than it was thinking. And you were seeing people drawing like descending triangles and stuff off his fucking cock. Like,
I had another. I was trying to find a few, but like I found ones where they're trying to like figure out the length.
Oh my god! Well, you see, the thing is, he's a tall bloke as well. Like, he's a good 6'3" or 4" or something. Like.
No, he's not 6'3" or 4.
See if you can Google it. See if you can Google it while you're on here. Vitalik height. Vitalik Buterin height.
Mate,
Vitalik bone and meme.
This is me prepping for this podcast. You got Vitalik dick meme. Vitalik boner meme. What Vitalik
Buterin height, yeah. What's that?
Fuck meters, mate. We're British.
Yeah.
6'1". He's 6'1".
He's not quite 6'4" then, but 6'1".
Yeah, bloody hell, you're absolutely making him out to be a fucking champion.
Absolute monster. But
fighting Tyson Fury next.
Yeah, he'd fucking knock him out with that thing if he carried on. But
I know, mate. Well, they estimated here that he's rocking a good fucking almost 7.8, almost an 8-incher, and he's only. He's definitely only semi there, isn't he, as well? Look at this. They've got a little. What's this little fucking triangle they've got on there?
Next to his shit. I don't know. But yeah, that was hilarious. Talking about another infamous character, you were about to intro him. Then we had
Old Doey boy.
Our Do Kwon. Yeah, that has been an eventful few months, hasn't it, to say the least? Well, first of all, obviously, again, I don't know if we spoke about it at all on the channel or we've done a video or anything, but Luna was just, wow. Something's going, the crypto space, that is probably the darkest mark on crypto space. Nothing to BitConnect with child's play compared to Terra Luna. Wow.
We've been there for it all, bro. We've seen BitConnect. I've seen.
Remember ETH getting hacked for like hard forking 150k ETH.
I remember Roger Ver fucking trying to get his little dick in and hard forking BTC. Like,
yeah,
some really horrible things have happened, but that
nothing on that. That was
next level, bro.
We were relatively unscathed, obviously, weren't we? But between ourselves, also didn't get to enjoy too many of those Luna gains. I made a bit on it, but nothing like those early buyers. But yeah, some people. That was a dark few days, and yeah, now we've got Do Kwon on the run from South Korean prosecutors. still tweeting, still tweeting, still showing very little genuine remorse, no matter what comes out of his mouth. It's pretty crazy. 40 billion.
Mate, he's like he reminds me of that guy. What's his name? Andrew Tate. Kwon reminds me of. He's like the Andrew Tate of crypto, mate. He's just
my God.
He's just keeps knocking out bits of content and just talking, and like, bro, everyone's just like off.
It was crazy, wasn't it? On his run up, and everyone started getting sus of those tweets when he was starting to just got like, he had a God complex. When the God complex came out on Twitter, everyone was like, this is getting a bit fucking weird now. You can't trust the thing that comes out of his mouth.
You can't trust a single thing that comes out of his mouth. Especially watching him in some of those, hype events where he's like UST,
Yeah.
and oh man, and like you said, Jed, when people bringing up problems, genuine technical problems that you should look at and address, he's just absolutely smiting them.
And it goes to show as well how a cultish community in crypto is the biggest driver and also the biggest downfall for more or less the entire space. That's what sent it from $1 million to a $40 billion market cap, and it's the same thing that sent it to fucking zero within 5 days. So people not selling, people being locked up forever, people believing that UST is going to regain its peg back to $1 when it's at 80 cents. And
like you said, network effect, community is really powerful stuff.
Up and down.
Yeah. It was tragic to see. Like, it was really painful to know that, a lot of people we know lost a lot of money, like 600,000, nearly $1 million, like, gone.
Yeah.
And they just watched it go to nothing. And I mean, like, $10. Like, it was that bad.
And now we've got reports, obviously, like I say, he's on the run. I heard Interpol are after him, get rid of his passport, the whole 9 yards. Still, like, you almost respect the goal for him still tweeting. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, I don't respect him in the slightest. He's awful human being for what went down, but it's just crypto.
I think no. The thing is though, bro. I think for me, if he just got so overcome by like greed and emotion and thinking he was the messiah, because fair play, mate. Imagine if one of us took a project from nothing to 60 billion. Like it would be like, it's hard, man, especially if you've not done it before. You get into that God complex, and he might have done that. And if, to be honest though, man, like, if he's just done that and not known what's really going on, he's just been a bit short-sighted. He's obviously a smart guy, but he could have been short-sighted. That God complex could have overcome him, and he makes him even more short-sighted. Then fair play. Like, if it did all fuck up and it wasn't meant to happen, then I can live with that, man. I didn't lose anything in Luna.
No one had a problem with him when it was going up, right?
Exactly. You can't crush him for that. But I don't think you can crush him for that entirely. He's a weird guy. He's not very emotionally intelligent, but at the same time, what do you expect? I bet like fucking Thomas Edison or like Vincent van Gogh, they weren't fucking people, really.
I think the issues stem from tweets like "Hold steady, lads," deploying more capital, and whether he did deploy more capital or he just set people up to get wrecked. Some big fun.
Which brings me on, mate. Which brings me on to this as well. Like, it's whether that went down and it was innocent, stupidity. Fine. But tweet from Fat Man about Korean prosecutors allege that Kwon tried to cashing out over 3.3k of BTC, bro, on KuCoin and OKX after a warrant for his arrest was released. they allege these funds came from the LFG reserves, which Do Kwon previously claimed had been deployed to defend the UST peg. Unfounded, but if that happened, bro, then fuck him. Like, fuck him, and I hope he gets the worst, because that's horrendous.
Well, there was other ones, wasn't there? I know some funds got out in, you know, like some big boys got out like right when it was, you know, like when the ship goes down, he was the first to jump off rather than the captain that went down with his ship. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of how it felt.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know yet, though. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Like, again, maybe I'm jumping the gun. We don't know what's what. He's not been prosecuted. Everyone deserves that kind of thing. But there's a lot of things pointing the right way. One thing that I noticed about his interviews and the way he's held himself is I genuinely think he's a sociopath. Like, I genuinely don't think he almost registers it, a sociopath, a psychopath. I'm not quite sure which, where he just is in this mode. That's probably why he did so well in the first place. And obviously he's a very smart guy, an incredibly smart guy. But I also think he doesn't, I've not seen any empathy for how many people, let's be right, like, there's a lot of people who took their own lives off the back of that, which was tragic. Imagine, you couldn't even imagine being locked up with a bulky net worth in it. Fair enough, losing gains, but the people who didn't lose gains, there's people who lost their shit, they lost their pants, you know?
I get you. You know, it was crushing, like people losing, you know, loss of life, like suicides is the worst.
Sure, you can't. But again,
that's the game. You know, you had people jumping off roofs in 2008, and it's like it's just it's the brutality of the game.
It's just a tough one to take for people, isn't it? I don't think anything that's worth 40, 50, 60 billion dollars should be evaporated in a matter of days if it's worth its salt. But yeah, Do Kwon's on the run. Do you think they're going to catch him? Do you think he's going to be tweeting from Singapore?
Is he going to be like John McAfee now? Is he going to just like fucking scoot around the world and fucking?
I have not been funny. After a Satoshi documentary, a Do Kwon Netflix documentary is probably number 2 on the list. I would love to see that. I hope someone's recording him now. Like,
it would be sick. I'd absolutely tune into that. I think he eventually gets caught. I mean, he alleges that he's not even trying to run from anyone, but I think he maybe just tries to build his case outside of any jurisdictions that he can, and then try and get rid of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, mate, the beauty about it all is that the transactions will be there somewhere.
For sure. I think
there's no getting around that. There's no getting around that. So let's see.
Absolutely not. Yeah. So if anyone, I don't know if you guys at home have seen this, there's a Twitter account that we absolutely love. It's a bit of guilty pleasure on Twitter called Coinfessions. You know, after an amazing bull run and all of us not cashing out at the top, most likely, one of the, I think, common things we can share is hoping that someone else had it a little bit worse, or someone else kind of fucked up a little bit. So this is the Twitter account, Coinfessions. I've just got a couple of them. Some are good, actually. Some are pretty bad. I'm going to start with a good one. Let's hook this up. One moment.
Show me.
I'm going to bring them up now.
Show me someone that's bleeding more than me.
Okay. One sec, actually. We can go back onto this bit. I've just had to swap my Twitter account. Okay, cool. Right, perfect. Let me pull a couple of these up. So this one's a bit of a positive one, actually, first. I've seen this one from today. To be honest, we might keep doing this in the podcast because there's tons of these, and I didn't even dig too deep on them. this is a nice one. Just going from Luna, coming on. So we had our guy here. Again, these are anonymous confessions by Twitter people. So this guy says, I took everything off Anchor Protocol, almost 120k UST 3 days before it collapsed, swapped it all to USDC, put it on Celsius, and then withdrew those funds the day before they stopped withdrawals.
No, man. No, they didn't.
So it seems that either this guy's got an intuition for smelling a rug, or, you know, maybe the angel in the sky loves me, as he says. So, yeah, well, you know, over 100k again. They're the fine margins that we're talking about. That's pretty wild.
That's disgusting luck, that, mate.
Yeah, disgraceful. I'll leave a link maybe to Coinfessions in the description as well. You need to check these guys out because we're going to keep robbing their content because it's brilliant.
I'd be out by this point. I'd be like, right, fucking money in the bank, like that. That can't fail. Like that can't fail.
And we all get used to this in crypto, right? You become completely desensitized to mass amounts of cash in a short period of time. But when you look at it logically, you're right. This guy's just made 3 house deposits. Well, maybe not at the minute.
Half a house deposit right now, bro.
At the minute, it's about 12 pints of milk. Yeah, so that was a good one. I think I can't actually remember the 3 that I've gone through, the 4 I've done. This is a funny one. This is quite a funny one. And I think this is true. So back when BT was approaching 20k high for the breakout, I was literally 10x long with my whole net worth. When it broke out and I was immediately on side, I've never been so euphoric in my life. I was in such a weird state that I had an exchange on one monitor and adult content on the other. I was watching his unrealized profit and loss skyrocket by tens of thousands of dollars every minute while sitting completely naked in his chair. Honestly, peak euphoria. I'll never get experienced anything like that ever again.
But you missed who you were saying, in my chair doing naughty things.
Yeah. Well, I think, we can imagine what the dirty bastard was doing there. But I remember watching the breakout as well. I wasn't 10x long with my net worth, but I was pretty fucking excited as well. And yeah, what a time. Man, I would love anything. What was it, about December, end of December 15th, 17th or something, breaking out. I remember being so buzzing. But yeah, this guy was there having a little too much fun. Having a little too much fun. If I remember right, this next one might be brutal.
To be fair, bro, I don't get that like feeling because I keep it all in spot in my offline account. So it just... I think
leverage long.
Yeah, you had 10x leverage to that, mate. I'd be fucking up all night.
Mate, this one, oh my word. So this guy says, I ate my mother's life savings of 30k into a shitcoin that went from 2 million to a $350 million market cap. So 175x. At one point, his tokens were worth over 5 million USD. The coin then dumped, never cashed out a single penny as I believed it was going to recover back to all-time high. I then tried to buy a sniper bot, inserted his seed phrase into a phishing website, and watched his wallet drain within seconds. Lost everything to a Telegram scammer, pretending to be a sniper bot. His mother has forgiven him, but he'll never forgive himself. 5 million USD to lose it, like not even taking his mum's 30k back out. He could have $4.7 million left.
No, mate. No.
And $4.97 million left after paying his mum off and didn't cash out a penny. Yeah.
That is absolutely tragic.
Again, these are anonymous confessions, whether it's true or not. I think people have got to be pretty inventive to come up with a couple of these, but
I think there's some. I think yeah. I mean,
look.
If this isn't true, there's 100% an example of where this has happened before. Like, there's no denying that.
Exactly.
That is absolutely savage. That though. I mean,
yeah, that's brutal, isn't it?
do you tell your mum what happened? The ordeal?
Wow, God, maybe he just said he lost it. Surely if you tell your mum that you're up 5 mil, that she says, "Can I have my fucking money back?" You know what I mean? But Yeah, I think there's a lot of these on Coinfessions. We're going to keep getting more of them.
I mean, it's, to be honest though, bro, it's not far off. It's not far off the conversation we had about the value of fucking wool, where you've got like $250,000 in like holdings, and I'm like, yeah, bro, probably just like cash that, because it's not something's not right about that. You're like, nah, wool's going to $1, bro.
My wool was locked. My wool was locked up. I'm a big wolf game. I was making at one point like $7,000 a day.
Did you withdraw max at peak though? Like,
I withdrew. I made about. I probably withdrew. I drew my initial plus maybe 4 or 5 ETHs worth of profit within just that first few days of staking period. But now I've still got all these Wolf Game assets. We're playing for free. Hopefully, Wolf Game takes off. Respect, but. Yeah, at one point that was pretty crazy. He's making like $5,000-$7,000 a day just from holding 4 sheep or to 4 sheep and wolf and stuff like. But yeah, fair enough. We all had bull run euphoria. I didn't make $5 million.
Yeah, I mean that's disgusting levels of greed, that, mate.
Yeah,
I'd never. I don't think I'd ever feel that. Like that. That's. What was he thinking then? That he thought that when he went down a bit, he thought he just watched it. He just watched it go down.
He must have gone from 5 to 3.8 mil and gone, hang on a minute, that was 1.2 mil I had 3 weeks ago. What? And then just completely switched off. Don't know why he's not cashing anything out on the way up or down. That is absolutely insane. But
especially when, bro, if you're messing around with 30k of your mum's money, you're definitely living in a basement at the same time. So it's like you ain't in Bel Air like messing around with 30k.
Exactly. That 5 mil changes your bloodline for the next 2 generations. So yeah, you know what I mean. It's quite a paradox though, isn't it? Because
it's all good though, bro. Because I mean, I thought Bitcoin was an inflation hedge. So at one point, so that we all get it wrong.
You see, though, it's funny this, because if you've got 30k in something, we were talking about this the other day, weren't we? If you've got 30k in something that 10x's, what are you doing? We're pretty degen. Maybe I'm a bit more degen, but you're probably cashing out a good sum there. So you're never turning 30k into 5 mil, because you never think once you go 100x on the 30k. You're not waiting for 175x, because after 10x, you're selling shit, aren't you? Like it's.
You have to be, mate. You have to be getting your initial, just your initial. Like you have to be getting that. I'm good holding moonbikes, but fuck that, man.
Yeah, it's never. But that was a pretty good one. I want to finish one last Coinfessions. We're not going to drain the Twitter. To be honest, there's tons of them. We're going to come back to this because I absolutely love it. The last one's a positive one as well, I think.
Give me some positivity.
Yeah, so this is the positive one. It's a nice one. This is actually some bear market things. So my brother gave me 0.5 ETH for my birthday and said, do what you want with it. At the time, I had a couple of friends who were big into NFTs. I asked them what to buy with it. One of them told me to mint Goblin Town as it was a free mint. So after minting them and buying some more, they went parabolic, closed for 30 ETH profit, GG's. Later bought his friend who told me about it a new PC, sent his brother 2 ETH, and ran off into the sunset with his NFT gains. So a nice one to finish off with. Goblin Town was
nice.
6 months
I remember that
ago.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Is when we were first dumping, when we were first getting pretty goblin-y, and everyone still found it funny.
Yeah, now it's not funny.
It's not funny anymore. Now everyone's like, right, okay, we've probably got 2 more years of this. It's like, this is really quite sad now.
Everyone's looking at the electricity bills, just being like, fucking hell, mate, I need to sell my goblin.
Goblins have dumped now, I think, probably. But yeah,
it's a good one, and this person sounds like a nice person as well. Sent my brother 2 ETH. Like,
exactly,
what a guy!
Buying his guy a PC is nice.
Oh, mate, that's what it's all about.
I wonder what ETH was at. Maybe probably over probably made $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 given the price of ETH. Maybe if he was selling it at high Goblin Town prices, maybe a little more. So
Mate,
for a free gift.
I want to be hearing about those $500 to like what was it, $7,000 to $5 billion Shib trades.
The Shiba. So the guy bought $7,000 worth of Shiba on
$7,000 on launch.
Day of launch. I did a bit of research on this recently. If anyone doesn't know about that, maybe we'll include this in a podcast. Maybe we'll do the biggest regions.
Bro, how either like genius or spasticated do you have to be to throw? What was it like? It was like $7,800 or something. It was like a really random little amount. It wasn't. It was almost like an amount where it's like almost everything. It's like, everything. Just lump it, Shib.
Do you know what? Let me see if we can fucking find the transaction. But yeah, so $7,800 into Shiba into billions. And as you said, if you are putting that much, it looked like an all-in ape, didn't it?
It did, mate. If I'm doing a YOLO weird little play like that, it's a round number. Oh, I'll chuck $5,000 into that. I'll chuck $2,000 into that. I'll chuck $10,000. Whatever. But 7,800 is just a bit of a strange amount. Unless it had something to do with the launch itself, it's a strange amount.
So this is, as you can see on the screen here, Crypto Wallet Investor made 8,000 Shiba in new coin purchase last year. Today it's worth 5.7 billion. This was almost 12 months ago now, 11 months ago. So he bought it on launch. He's up more than 7 million% as of August 2020. So you've done 7 million% in 10 months. And yeah, this person, I don't know why we keep saying a guy, could well have been a woman, but I think it was probably a bloke, considering 99% of crypto is, or 95. Made 5.7 billion, didn't sell on the way up as well. At what point is your Shiba back?
They did cash out hundreds of millions. I did see that they did.
No, I think they did, but I'm pretty certain they ran up a lot of this. I'm pretty certain it topped out. Again, we're just talking about it. You've got $8,000. At 10x, you're pretty fucking excited. At 100x, you're ecstatic, right? Now, once you've turned $8,000 into $1 million, and then you've turned it into 10, this guy went through 1 million, 10 million, $100 million. At some point,
he went through like billion, 2 billion. Like 3 billion. At one point, you sat there like, hang on a minute, I've got as much money as some little tiny sovereign nation.
Exactly.
Should I maybe cash out a little bit here?
I'm not cashing out here. Who's cashing out for a bill?
I want to get into that 10 billy club. What is that?
That's insane. I wish
don't you love thinking? I love the thought and narrative that it is some proper hillbilly just sat there fucking. How much is it fucking worth, Derek? How much fucking worth? It's worth 5.7 billion. And just trying to sell it out. What should I do? Just fat fingering $500 million. Just
Christ Almighty! That $8,000 again. Even if it was no one that was wadded, surely. Who's making that play?
Well, I don't know. No, surely not.
Even if it was an insider,
no one wadded is watching the Shiba Inu token launch.
And I read it. He bought it on launch. So either this guy, I swear to God, if there's any proof that time travel is real, this is it.
Definitely.
Who the fuck knew that? When did we finally get into shitcoins? Right at the end, and we all lost 2K in a week.
Yeah, but mate, the craziest thing about the whole thing is the hold. Like you said, I mean, mate, I make a few $1,000 profit, and I'm sweating a little bit, and I'm
feeling good. Yeah, you want it off.
I want to take some of this off and bank some of that, and but to watch you go to $1 million. 2 million, 300, 200, a billion, 2 billion, 5, 4 billion. And you just sat there I'm not selling.
For me, for some reason, the numbers 10 and 100 mil just freak me out. Like, if you've got like I know a bill's ridiculous, but how can like these things rug at will? Like, if you want to go past 10 mil, past 9 figures, you go past 100 mil, and you're not selling. Like, it's a special kind of degen. If we could ever get that guy on this podcast, it would make my life.
Mate, he might be the second person next to Satoshi on the table.
Oh my God, that's so true.
It could be a horrendous invite, and there's just some absolute hillbilly there. But
you know what? I think even Satoshi. So what? He's probably him and Satoshi are probably like a similar level.
Mate, he's the hold is too much for me to handle. I can't believe it, and the fact that like. If you're trying to sell that much, like people need to know as well that if you're trying to sell $5.7 billion worth of an asset, like that's like, you really need to know what you're doing, or you need like a team of people to be coordinating stuff to be able to incrementally offload and put together a proper strategy. But someone sat there, bro, just like send 1 billion to Binance and then just like fucking sell. No.
This is what was so interesting. I don't know if it says it on here. So I think this person there, the crypto wallet, owned 13% of supply. So I suppose at the same time, it becomes like, I suppose if you do have that much of the supply and you're like, do I rug this thing and sell it all and take the most ridiculous slippage and empty every pool that's alive? Or do people watch me sell and shit the bed and start selling? Do you know what I mean? It does become a game of psyops.
Well, yeah, it does. Or it's a fucking dev, and that's
a dev,
and that's the end of it.
And it's a dev, but again, even it could well be a dev, but even then, it's like, what you're buying. Maybe they're buying their own shit, and it started going off. But even a dev selling, right? Anyone selling, that's still a wallet full of whatever.
Regardless, it's a fucking cool story. Like,
insane. I love it.
I wish I could hold like that.